Welcome to Sports CTO Talks. In today's episode, we will be talking about how technology, media, and investment are converging from fragmented sports market to connected ecosystems. In this series, we would be connecting with industry leaders from the sports and technology world. I am Ami, your guide on this journey through amazing minds of the industry who are shaping the future of sports. Today, we are joined by Christoph Rapp. I hope I have pronounced your name correctly. Christoph Rapp.
Perfect.
He is the managing director and partner at Sports Connected. With over 20 years of experience in sports business, marketing, media, sponsorship, and innovation. He has also played a key leadership role at ISPO Munich, helping drive conversations around sports tech, AI, digital transformation, and the future of fan engagement. And he is a mentor at LEAD Sports and Health Tech Partners, where he guides emerging businesses in harnessing cutting edge technologies and strategies. We welcome you to the podcast, Christoph.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to join that podcast. Hope I can share some experiences.
Absolutely. So, my first question is, into the sports industry has historically operated into silos, like the
Mhm.
leads, it can be the broadcasters, the sponsors, the tech platforms, all working somewhat independently. So what do you think was the single biggest catalyst, that forced these stakeholders to finally start speaking the same language? And why did it take so long?
Yeah, so maybe I start, if you don't mind, with some with a short background on where I have been working, because I think that helps to
Absolutely.
really let people know why I have one perspective and not the other. For the past 10 years, as you just said, I worked for ISPO, which is a global sports business platform. Was leading marketing and sales. Before that, worked for an American company building the consumer department. And before that, I lived in Spain for almost 10 years, working with big clubs like Real Madrid and FC Barcelona, and doing sponsorship deals like with Audi, BWin. And that leads perfectly to the question you just asked, because back in that time, let's say early 2000, we still saw a lot of different silos. So there was no real need to bring the different areas together, because there was one big right holder, there was one broadcaster, and then there were a couple of sponsors. So actually no need to bring it together. So the big change happened, and I don't think the pure driver was technology. I think the driver was a little bit the loss of attention. So when attention was more fragmented, so different channels, not just one broadcasters, fans started to split their attention across different screens. So first screen, second screen, third screen. Then leagues and right holders suddenly realized that it's not just about having a product, broadcasting the product, and reaching the fan. Um, yeah, but really bring the different silos together. So that was actually, I think, the point in time when those stakeholders started speaking the same language, as you said.
Okay. So when we talk about the connected ecosystem, in the sports, we risk making it sound purely utopian. So what are the real frictions? Is it cultural or is it commercial or, regulatory that still prevent true convergence, even as we celebrate, how far we have come from back then?
Mm. Yeah, I think yeah, there are different angles. So what is really preventing that true convergence? It's of course, like always, it's different interests, the different stakeholders have. It's sometimes also not a long-term planning, but short-term planning that is often the case when also talking about private equity investment, for example, where it's more about short-term success, trying to sell the property in the short run. Um, and yeah, at the end, it needs alignment within the ecosystem, and one player that takes the lead, actually. So yeah, I think it's I'm just looking at my notes because I had some notes on that.
That's a very interesting thing that you have made
Yeah.
notes.
Um, Yeah, that's what I said, right? So broadcasters are looking for reach. Actually, the leagues have a different objective. They are mainly looking at licensing fees and the sponsor, as I said, and taking the example back then with Real Madrid, those sponsors were looking purely for brand exposure. And at the end, the overall objective should always be a frictionless fan experience.
Correct.
But then the important question is, who of those players owns the fan experience? And yeah, it's a rhetorical question because actually no one owns owns the fan experience. So yeah, it's now applying new technology makes it easier to build an ecosystem around that really guarantees that frictionless um, infrastructure and frictionless fan experience. But it's still a way to go.
Okay. So when we talk about private equity, it has flooded into the sports franchisees and league over the last 5 years. But capital alone cannot build the ecosystem. It can also fragment them further through, the competing ownership interests. So how do you see the relationship between investment mandates and the ecosystem thinking? Is it playing out right?
Yeah, that's I already mentioned that briefly in my last answer. So one thing always is when it comes to private equity, long term versus short term. So short term investment goals definitely do not help. But, and there's a big but, if we look in the past, we can see that private equity has triggered a lot of good things. So better business management. It helped international scaling of clubs, properties. It brought a lot of more, let's say, operational expertise that for some of the sports organizations is very or has been difficult, would have been very difficult to build it on their own. So yeah, it really depends on how the PE acts in sports. But like always in life, there's good things and bad
Correct.
things.
Correct. streaming has democratized, the access into the sports industry in some ways, but it's
Hmm.
also created a paradox. Fans now need five different subscriptions to
Yeah.
follow one single sport. So, is the industry genuinely moving, towards consolidation, or are we just, repackaging the fragmented in the digital? It's a digital wrapper. Is it like that?
Yeah, I think there are different developments, as you rightly said. So if I want to watch football today, I need to have at least, let me think, four subscriptions, I think.
Correct.
One for the National League, one for the foreign leagues, one for Champions League, and even Champions League is with two different streaming
Correct.
providers. So that is definitely not an improvement for the fan. As you said, it's a different packaging um, format. But on the other side, we see a tendency that platforms are really realizing that fan churn is a problem, a serious problem, and aggregation uh, that happens to a certain degree already is not, let's say, it's not a sign of weakness, but helps to um, create a better fan experience and therefore a business model. So if we look at the market, we see things like bundle strategies or platform partnerships. So I think some of the players realized that aggregation could be the move forward. And on the other side, and we are already seeing that, I think there will be significantly more consolidation in the next 3 to 5 years in the market.
So, the data and the athlete performance analytics have become a central to both on-field decisions or off-field valuations.
Mhm.
But who truly owns the athlete data? Is it the leagues, the clubs, the technology providers, or
Mhm.
the athlete themselves? And how is the tension reshaping the deals and the partnerships in today's context?
That's a very good question. And as you can imagine, there's no short answer to that question because it's right now it's an unsolved question. So who is really owning the data? And we've seen in the last month and years, we've seen also legal actions around that point, which shows that um, it is today's reality that data flows out on the one side to tracking systems owned by the league, to but also to the garments of that world, to the wearable providers. Then there's sports betting platforms, and in very few of those cases, the athlete has a real control over that data. And
Okay.
again, there is a but. If we look into the future, I think athletes and also the unions and the athletes associations, and now coming back to my country and my region, Europe, data protection laws are pretty restrictive here. So all that plays into a debate where in the future the athlete will have more control over the data, and organizations need to build frameworks that help and protect the data of the athletes.
So how is the market into Europe, the sports market? Like, is it growing with the time? Like, is it ready to compete the US market? If you could just share a scenario with us with a few examples.
I think it is growing, but or I know it's growing, and it's growing globally. And the more fragmented, that's what I explained before, the more fragmented the overall market will be, the more important sports will become there, because there is not much, maybe there's music as well. There's not much content that has a higher value if it's being watched live. So live events and specifically sports on the one side have a strong live character, and on the other side, a very emotional environment, helping to really engage a certain community. So if you are able to engage with that fan community, you will be in the pole position. But coming back to your question, that also um, will help the whole sports business industry to grow. And then the question always is what's included in in the sports business industry. As I mentioned, I've worked in different fields. So of course there are sectors not growing necessarily. So the bike industry has suffered a little bit in the last
Yeah.
years. But in terms of media, professional sports, it's definitely growing. Yes.
And what about the emerging markets, like the South Asia, Southeast Asia particularly, and Africa, like represent enormous untapped audience or untapped talent also. So what the infrastructure, the media rights, the monetization models, built in the West don't always translate for them. So how should the industry think about building an ecosystem that is genuinely global?
Mm. Yeah, I think um, on the one side, some of those regions are already more engaged than maybe the traditional conservative or yeah traditional regions like Europe. So when I worked with Real Madrid 15 years back, 20 years back, Southeast Asia was one of the most important markets, and in terms of fans and fan volume was maybe even more important than some European countries. Now, the question always is how can you connect with those fans? Because it's pretty difficult to attend a game if you live in Southeast Asia. Um, and that comes back to the question that if you own rights, if you're a team, if you're a property, you need to create the right digital ecosystem to connect with fans. And this is the big difference to the past, where it just was streaming the games. So there's game day footage, training footage, there's content that's produced, targeted to different regions. And that comes back to the whole discussion we're having in this podcast. It's about building the right ecosystem also for those um, regions. Yeah, and on the other side, there's of course there's also the opportunity um, to build ecosystems out of those regions. So, for example, in Africa, there's still a high potential also in terms, as you just said, for talent, developing their own structures, their own leagues, association, reach. So definitely huge potential. Yeah.
Okay. There are few reports by PwC and Deloitte that projects the global sports industry to surpass $600 billion driven by media, AI, streaming, the fan tech innovation. But
Mhm.
most of the value still flows into handful, of major leagues or franchises. So, do you think that this convergence is truly democratizing the sports ecosystem or simply making the biggest players even more dominant or biggest players more bigger?
Yeah, um, that's difficult to answer, I think, of course, and that's not just happening in sports. That's happening in other industries in the same way. The overwhelming majority of value flows to a handful of leagues and franchises in the US, for example, and that's something we cannot take away. Um, but technology allows also small and mid-sized players to build an ecosystem for maybe for their specific niche as well. So from a technical point of view, I think the sports industry could be more democratized. Then, and that's maybe the more important point, even, it depends on the leadership team. So if you're able to bring in the right leaders, even to a smaller and mid-sized, yeah, team, property, whatever, then there is a good opportunity. Unfortunately, usually those kind of people tend to go to the bigger um, platforms.
Okay. So when you're talking about the bigger platforms, sports media rights have become some of the most expensive content on the planet today. So, but yet traditional broadcasters are losing subscribers with the tech giants and are
Mhm.
selectively, buying rights without fully committing to the sport. So, who do you think will ultimately win the media rights war? And what does winning even mean in a fragmented attention
Mm.
space?
Yeah, it's also a more complex topic to answer because as you already mentioned, so the classic right ownership model only made sense in a world um, 10, 15 years back where distribution was scarce. So where you only had yeah, one, two, three broadcasters, and then only one channel where you could watch the game. Now with tech companies coming in, there may be an advantage on the tech companies side to win that media rights war because they have the access to the consumers. They have the possibility to engage. They have the data, um, but they need to build the community. So the question is, are they willing? Are they ready to build that community? Or is it maybe more, let's say, hybrid models where organizations that use those rights as an entry point build data, community, and also very important commerce around. So I don't think that pure right holders not having a data strategy will be successful. So it's more those hybrid models probably winning the war, if you want to say so. But we will not go back to a world where it's one, two, or three, um, having like an oligarch system in the media rights
Absolutely.
system. Yeah.
Absolutely. Another thought is, like women's sports also has seen extraordinary growth in point of investment and the viewership recently.
Mhm.
So, is this a genuine structural shift in how the industry values women's sports ecosystem, or is it still largely, opportunistic capital chasing a trend?
I don't think it's a trend. So especially in Europe, we see a fast and high development in women's sports and demand. Of course, it's always a question of
Correct.
market and demand. If there wasn't a demand, then obviously broadcasters, sponsors would not go into that space. I think it still needs some development and professionalization, but we are in a good way, and yeah, there are sports that are more suitable and others that probably will have a different balance.
There is a concept of super app for sports. One platform that combines content, commerce, community, ticketing, betting, everything. Has been attempted multiple times and largely failed. So, what's
Mm,
missing? Is it the technology? Is it the right structure, the consumer behavior, or the will to collaborate across competitors?
mm. Yeah, that's probably because sometimes, and especially if it's then uh, investors, tech companies trying to build such platforms. First of all, and that's very easy to say, but that comes back to a good manager's quality. You need to watch the need of the consumer.
Hmm.
So it's not about building an ecosystem, having all technical features in there, if the consumer does not want to have those features inside. So first of all, it's market research. It's asking your consumers, what are they really looking for? Do they need all this in one platform? Is sports betting maybe is that a relevant feature, or is it just another piece to engage with your club? I think that has been the main problem when building such ecosystems or platforms, that it was maybe more technology and innovation driven and not so much based on the needs the consumer and fans have.
Okay. I have a lot of questions, Christoph, but I'll stick to one last question. If
Sure.
you were advising a mid-tier sports property, say a
Yeah.
league with regional relevance but limited global footprint, on how to position itself in this converging ecosystem rather than, get swallowed up by it, what would
Mhm.
your first three moves be?
Yeah, I think, and that's something I briefly mentioned before as well. Own your niche. So not to be a small Champions League or a small NBA, um, but really own your niche. And then once you own that niche, meaning you're very well connected to your fans, you have built a fan base in your niche. And building a fan base obviously also means owning first party data as a strategic asset. Then you can try to scale, but don't position yourself too broad and try to grow. As I said, own your niche and then try to scale and find your own way. And try to collaborate, not go into direct competition. Yeah, be open to partnerships with tech platforms, with creators, even with competing leagues, because that's actually ecosystem thinking, and that's what probably will help you to accelerate your growth.
Okay, we'll move on to the next segment. That's the rapid fire round.
Mhm.
I'll ask you a few questions and you'll have to be quick in answering.
I will try.
It's one word or max one sentence, Christoph.
Okay. Okay.
Who is your favorite player of all time?
Say it again. I
Who
didn't get it.
who is your
Yeah.
favorite player of all time?
Football player or
Any player, any.
any player or athlete. I'm a big fan of Cristiano Ronaldo because, yeah, okay.
No
One sentence
explanations.
of no
No
explanation. Okay,
explanations.
yeah, no explanation.
Which is your favorite team and where would you like them to play?
My favorite team is, and that shows how community engagement works. My favorite team is my home team. It's called Freiburg, and I would like to play them where they play right now. I don't
Okay.
want to play them in the highest leagues.
Okay. Which will be more valuable in the future of sports? Live media rights or fan data?
Fan data.
Yes or no? Tech companies could eventually become more powerful than traditional sports broadcasters.
They could, yes.
One sports organization or league that you believe is building the best connected ecosystem today.
There are two. Maybe one is, and we always mention them, NBA.
Mm,
Another one, maybe not that obvious, is Red Bull.
mm,
We've built a very nice
yes,
ecosystem. Yeah.
absolutely. Complete this sentence. The future of sports will belong to organizations that.
That build communities.
Mm, perfect. We'll move on to the next segment. There is only one question. You will have to answer that into 30 seconds.
Okay.
What is the role of AI into the connected ecosystem, the technology, media, investments, and how the fragmented sports markets is converging?
Um, the role of AI, right? Yeah.
Yes,
I think the role of AI, and that's also again not sports specific, and sometimes we tend to put technology into the middle, into the center, but it's just a tool. It's just a tool.
correct.
So we need to use AI the right way to reach the goals we define, and it will help us and platforms, organizations, ecosystems to be more efficient, to be closer to the fan, etc. But AI is not the solution. AI is just the tool, a powerful tool, but just the tool.
Correct. Thank you, Christoph, for joining us today and sharing wonderful insights on the podcast.
Thank you. It has been a pleasure.
Absolutely. So, everyone, let's stay connected for more understanding on sports and technology. Please share this episode with all the people who love sports and technology. If you are building anything new or if you want to get connected with Christoph or me, please just DM or message us in the chat. We will get back to you. That was Christoph sharing his insights today. We will meet in the next episode next week. Until then, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep exploring.